For many years, I lived the standard busy life. I was a busy mom. I had kids at home. I was working full time, and I was just all over the place. I had hobbies that I loved, and I was involved in community theater and all these things, but I was regularly exhausted and never in the present moment. When I was at a kid's game, I was thinking about the doctor's appointment I had to get to, or the other kid's game I had to get to, or dinner had to be done, or the work that I had to do. When I was in community theater, I was thinking about, I'm at these rehearsals and I need to be over here and I have to do that, and I was constantly overwhelmed and exhausted and discontent. So I really did convince myself for those years that when the kids got older, when they moved out, I happened to be very heavy at the time, when I lost 150 pounds, when I got my life in line, that I wouldn't be so discontent, that I could be in the present moment. And so I just kept pushing it off. But then the kids did move out and I did lose the weight, and I was extremely discontent. And that moment when I realized, holy crap, I'm still unhappy, and all these things that I planned for threw my life into a complete and total tizzy. I couldn't handle it. When I had to face the fact that it was not about those things, that it was me, that no matter how my life changed, no matter where I went, no matter what house I lived in, how much money I had, whether or not I had 4 kids at home or not, whether or not I loved my job or not, I was discontent and unhappy and unable to live in the present moment. When I was in a happy, joyous time, I couldn't stay there. I couldn't maintain my contentness. And I've realized over the years that many people that I deal with and that I talk to and that I work with are in that same place, a crisis of identity, because a role shifted, something major changed in their life that forced them to have to admit that they were not this role, and that definition of themselves was not stable. They didn't know who they were, and I was in that same boat. I didn't know who I was. I had defined myself by all these roles, and now they went away. And I defined myself by this someday having this achievement of, having raised my children and things moving on. And when that didn't happen, I lost it. I had to face the fact that I had been hiding from all these old past traumas that I never healed, that I had been living a life that I wasn't content with, and I didn't know myself. I didn't know me. And when you don't know yourself and you are not living in the present, your reactions to things are very different. If you're depending on your life to go a certain way or for a certain future outcome, then when something gets in the way of that, whether it's another human being or a life decision, you get really angry. You don't have control over that, and somebody's messing with your plan in the future, and that's very upsetting. There's a tremendous amount of anxiety on everything that's happening. If you were living in the past, we tend to call that PTSD. You're stuck in a moment somewhere else. So learning to live in the present is very difficult, and it's a great thing to say, we got to live in the present. But how do you do that? You've got to be in your body. You've got to be balanced in your body. And so I learned this in a moment in the woods, walking my dog 12 miles from anybody else. I hadn't seen another person, and there was this deer standing in the middle of the woods looking like he wanted to bolt when he first saw me, but then he decided not to. And it was like watching instinct and mind at the same time. And I realized I don't do that. I live 100% in my brain. I'm not in my body. I don't live in my intuition. I don't live in my instinct. And I had a great therapist, and I started reading, and I started learning, and I started teaching myself and others all these ways to be in this innate system our body already has, this checks and balances between our logical brain and our body. And when you can be in both, when you can listen to your brain but feel your truth in your body, you start to learn who you are, and everything else is just kind of there. It's exciting because you're in your life, you're in your body, and you become so strong in who you are that when other things happen, because we can't control these other things outside of ourselves, you allow yourself to really truly feel your emotions, to really know how you feel and process it out so it doesn't stick in there, it doesn't become an anger or resentment or an ugly reaction later. And you learn to really be safe in your own body. So if everything changes tomorrow, if you lose somebody you love, if you lose your home, it's terrible. And it's not to say that you don't feel agony or despair, but you're safe in who you are and your self-identity and your self-awareness, that you know you're going to be okay. You know what the world's telling you, and you get all the messages and the love. And that's what I want to do. I want to help people learn how to listen to their true, authentic truth, know it, live it, and be in their bodies and fall in love with themselves, because falling in love with yourself is what leads us to be in the present. There's no other way around it. You have to be in your body to be in your life, to be in your presence. And that's where I found it. That's where I found no longer being exhausted and discontent. And I just want to share it.